And this is section 8.4, and we're looking at day 1, and we are simplifying what we call rational expressions. Now, rational expression is a ratio. Okay, so simply put, a rational expression is simply a fraction with variables. Okay, simply a fraction with variables. And what we're going to do today is we are going to just simplify these. We're not doing any multiplying, dividing, we're just simplifying. So how do we simplify a rational expression? Okay, so first thing we got to do is we have to factor all and any expressions, which is why the last couple days we've been going through and working those kind of practice problems. So we're going to factor anything we can on the top and factor anything we can on the bottom. Then, this is the part that's going to be new. We are going to do what we call state the domain. So the domain is which x values make the denominator become 0. So when we state the domain, and you want to write this part down, to find the domain, we simply set each part of the denominator equal to 0 and solve it. Okay, so again, to find the domain, we're setting each part of the denominator equal to 0, and then we are solving it. So I'll go through an example, of course, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. Okay? Then, once you do that, you have to simplify the expression by canceling anything that's the same on the top with whatever the same as thing is on the bottom. So it'd be like having, again, if I have a fraction like 5 over 5, I can cancel these 5s and make 1. Well, it's the same thing if I have x plus 2 over x plus 2. Okay, those things can cancel. Alright, so let's take a look here at the first example. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I want to look, okay, on the top, can I do anything on the top to factor it? I have 36x. No, there's nothing I can do here to factor the top. On the bottom, I have 21x squared plus, or excuse me, 28x squared plus 21x. Is there any way for me to simplify the bottom or factor it? Well, there is. What I can do, is there a number that goes into 28 and 21? Sure, there is. So my top's not going to change, 36x. Biggest number that goes into 28 and 21 is a 7. They both have an x, so I'm going to take out an x. This is all of what we did yesterday. So 28 divided by 7 is 4. I had 2 x's, I took 1 away, so I only have 1 x left. 21 divided by 7 is 3. I had an x, they took it away from me, I don't have it anymore. Okay, so now what I can do here is I can take and look and see, because I have 36x over 7x times 4x plus 3. Okay. Anything top and bottom that's the same I can cancel out. So this guy will cancel out. These x's will cancel out. Now, is there a number that goes into 37 or 36 and 7? No, there's not. But if there was, I would do that in this case. Or if there was a 4x plus 3 on top and a 4x plus 3 on bottom, I would cancel those out as well. Okay. But since that's all I can do, my final answer is 36 over 7 times 4x plus 3. And I'm done. Now, one of the things that I forgot to talk about and didn't really talk about here, and we're going to look at here, is the domain. Once I get to this spot, okay, I'm going to take each part of the bottom and I'm going to set it equal to 0. So I've got two things here in this case. 7x, set that equal to 0, and 4x plus 3. We're going to set that equal to 0. The reason why is because if those two things are 0, I end up dividing by 0. I can't divide a number by 0. So, first thing I do here, I'm going to divide by 7. Divide by 7. Cannot be 0. If x is 0, 0 happens on the bottom. Then I'm going to subtract 3 from each side here. 4x equals negative 3. Divide by 4. And x cannot be negative 3/4. So I have an answer right here, and then I have a domain. These are the two things that x cannot be. Okay, you'll have to do a domain for every single problem. Okay, so now let's take a look at some trinomials on here. So on these trinomials here, let's take a look at example number 1 in your notes. Okay, I've got x squared plus 7x plus 10, and then x squared plus x squared minus 3x and minus 10. So, again, I'm going to factor the top and the bottom. And in order to do that, I've got to use my I've got x squared plus 7x plus 10. So I want to use my product sum. A times c is 10. I need factors of 10 that add to 7. Well, that happens to be 5 and 2. So I'm going to take and replace this with the 5x and the 2x. Then I'm going to group them. Coming out of the first group is an x. I'm left with an x plus 5. Out of the second group, I'm going to take out a 2. Left with an x plus 5. I have an x plus 5 in common. And an x plus 2 left over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the x squared plus 7x plus 10 to x plus 5 and x plus 2. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with x squared minus 3x and minus 10. I need factors of negative 10 that add to negative 3. So the factors of negative 10 that add to negative 3 are, let's see here, negative 5 and positive 2. So again, I'm going to replace. So essentially, guys, on these problems, you're doing factoring twice, more or less. So this is going to be negative 5x plus 2x, bring down the negative 10, and the x squared. Okay, and then I'm going to group them. Take out an x out of the first group, left with an x minus 5. Take out a 2 out of the second group, left with an x minus 5. Have an x minus 5 in common, and an x plus 2 left over. Okay, that's what's going to go on the bottom. X minus 5 and an x plus 2. Okay, so now, with that being said, before I go any further with the work I've done, before I do any canceling, I have to do my domaining. So the question is, what are the parts of the denominator? Well, that's these two parts right here. So I'm simply going to take the two parts in the denominator, x minus 5, set it not equal to 0. It can't be 0. Then I'm going to take x plus 2 and set that not equal to 0. Okay, how do I solve it? Well, I'm going to add 5 here. So in this case, x cannot be positive 5. That's one part of my domain. Then down on the bottom, I'm going to subtract 2. And I get x cannot be negative 2. That's the other part of my domain. So x cannot be 5 and it cannot be negative 2. It can't be those two things, because if it does become those two things, it makes it 0. So once I've got my domain, this is my domain here. Now what I can do is I can cancel out things that are the same, top and bottom. So as I look at this problem now, what two things are the same on the top and the bottom? Well, my x plus 2's. These guys are the same. They're going to cross out. Is x minus 5 and x plus 5 the same thing? No, they're not. They're completely different. So I can't do anything with that. So I just simply leave that as my answer. X plus 5 over x minus 5. With a domain of x cannot be 5 and x cannot be negative 2. Okay, so now you should be able to complete all of your class kick problems. I believe there's 7 of them, and you do not have a second video. This one's a little bit long, but you do not have a second video to watch.